Hello all good people. Today I'll share another affordable way to burn fat and accordingly reduce weight for those people who have such a task and who don't want to strain a lot. It's a completely affordable tool that can be prepared in the kitchen. I'm sure that every apartment has such an opportunity. We will talk about the usual tea with milk, but prepared somewhat unusually. That is, tea should be brewed in milk. I'll probably start right away with the recipe. Fact is that there are several options, but in my performance it's done like this. The milk is simply heated in saucepan to the maximum temperature, but not to the boiling point. For example, take half a liter of milk, and then, when the milk is ready to boil, without letting it to boil, throw in 1 or 2 teaspoons of regular loose-leaf black tea. And after that, on a very low heat, without bringing it to a boil, stir constantly, preventing it from escaping. You watch as the color of the milk begins to turn brown. That's when the milk has already acquired such a brown hue, and this will be approximately in 7 to 10 minutes. Your drink is ready. You can turn off the stove and strain through the mesh and pour into cups. You can drink this drink. If you do this when you are hungry, then, after you drink it, you will feel that the feeling of hunger has passed and you will not feel like eating for a long time. Why is this happening? In fact, I knew this recipe for a very long time, but only now have I decided to figure out what scientific mechanisms, what physiological mechanisms underlie its action. And it turns out, oddly enough, that this is our good old glucagon-like peptide 1, which I already told you about in several previous videos. I even made a video about the fact that there are special drugs that are very expensive in the form of an injection or in the form of tablets, which are analogues of the glucagon-like peptide 1. They stimulate a feeling of fullness in the body, slow down gastric emptying, improve the functions of the liver and pancreas, and slightly raise insulin. And this is not bad for those people who already have type 2 diabetes. Their pancreas cannot release enough insulin, and accordingly, raising insulin after eating is just good for them, since it turns out that the glucose concentration in the body immediately drops, and this is much more important than any kind of insulin. And moreover, insulin then very quickly returns to normal. In addition, the glucagon-like peptide 1 has an effect on the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the bones, and on the muscles. But the most important thing that we need to know is that drinking this tea with milk promotes the release of the same glucagon-like peptide 1, and accordingly, first the hunger center in our brains turns off, then our stomach stops actively contracting, as a result of which the contents of the stomach are evacuated more slowly, and hunger disappears. And why is glucagon-like peptide 1 released from this drink? There are 2 factors. The first, oddly enough, is inherent in all warm dishes in general. That is, it turns out that food temperature affects the release of glucagon-like peptide 1. That is, if you eat something hot, you will always feel full faster than if you eat cold ice cream of the same calorie content. Glucagon-like peptide 1 is to blame. It's better produced when exposed to warm temperatures on the walls of the stomach and intestines. Well, the second very significant factor is, of course, a high concentration of amino acids in milk. Milk protein is causing albumin and globulin. It contains many essential amino acids. The main ones in stimulating the glucagon-like peptide 1 are branched-chain amino acids, that is, BCAAs, as many call them. These are leucine, isoleucine and valine. It's they, in high concentrations, that stimulates the production of glucagon-like peptide 1. That is, this is the second mechanism of action of this drink. And the third mechanism, in fact, is in the tea itself. Black tea contains, as you know, many polyphenolic compounds. These compounds activate an enzyme inside our cells called adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, which in turn starts the process of lipolysis and autophagy. Lipolysis, that is, the melting of fat, implies the generation of energy from fat. That is, in this way, on the other hand, when we use this tea with milk, a glucagon-like peptide 1 is released, which inhibits appetite. And on the other hand, fat burning is activated in us, and the body begins to receive energy from its own fat reserves against the background of reduced appetite, which in fact is what we need. And you can drink this drink 2 or 3 times a day. Well, the afternoon, of course, for those people who have a sleep disorder, it's probably contraindicated for them. The next question is bound to come up. But what if I can't stand milk, lactose intolerance? Well, buy lactose-free milk. Here is the answer. Well, for those who cannot fall asleep from tea, the advice is, well, don't drink tea at night. Okay, it's all over now. And for everyone else who wants to reduce their body fat a little and at the same time not pay big money for special drugs that have almost the same effects, I advise you to use this simple recipe. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention.